Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of The Addict's Unintelligible Truth. My name's Alex and
I'm Taylor.
And today we have a special guest with us. Her name's Norma, and she's giving us a perspective with her addiction with alcoholism, which is something we can't relate with.
No, yeah, as an opiate addict, I didn't want to drink much.
Yeah, same with me with meth.
Yeah.
So, to get started, you just want to introduce yourself, say hi.
Hi, I'm Norma. I am a recovering alcoholic. I've been clean April 5th, will be 32 years.
That's awesome.
That is big.
That's big.
That is so big.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I kind of wanted to talk to you instead. It does work.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
there is life afterwards, and yous are young, and you've got a whole life ahead of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's exactly what we wanted to hear, too.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it works.
So, the first question,
Okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's good.
Okay. The first question we had was, what was your life like pre-alcoholism?
I probably started drinking when I was 15-ish in high school, skipping school, drinking beer in the 70s. It was a whole different world than what it is now. I always thought I had a pretty normal childhood, youngest of four. My parents, they got a divorce when I was 15, about the time I started, kind of got turned loose. And my dad was an alcoholic. He was a functioning alcoholic, went to work. I don't know that I ever knew I seen him drunk when I was little.
Yeah.
Always thought I had a pretty normal childhood until I grew up and realized what dysfunction is. And
Yeah.
there is no normal. There's a lot of things that weren't right.
Right.
I mean, but nothing major. Nothing major. Just started with high school, skipping school, drank a beer. By the time my parents got a divorce when I was 15, and I moved out in my first apartment with some friends when I was 16. By that time, I was regular going to the bars,
Wow.
and it was a different time back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was 16 and 17 dating guys that were 25 and 30 that were divorced and had kids and didn't think anything of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, should my kids or grandkids come home at 16 dating a 21-year-old,
No.
I have them arrested.
Right.
Yes.
But back then it was, just
Something
It's hard to
happened.
see it whenever you're going through it yourself versus looking back on it. I've realized that with even my addiction, different things. I was like, okay, well, that wasn't that bad while I was doing it, but now that I'm older, I'm like, that's
Oh,
not
my.
quite right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I say with childhood and the home life and dysfunction and stuff. When you're doing it and everyone around you is kind of the same,
Mm-hmm.
but as you get older and you start looking back, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Was I 16 and 17 years old, sitting in a bar with even at say 25-year-old,
Yeah.
probably had a wife and kids at home,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and no one ever told me that wasn't
Yeah, no one said it was wrong. Yeah.
right. So anyway, yeah, it was the 70s, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And
Yep.
I didn't know any different.
Right.
I got married when I was 19. Married a guy that didn't drink. Was very possessive, and I thought that was love because I had never had anyone telling me no or guiding me in any way.
Yeah.
So his possessiveness to me was love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were married 5 years. I had one son, and that whole time I didn't drink. And then once we split up, I was in church. My mom went to bars, and I wasn't going. And I thought she was awful, and
Mm-hmm.
And then I went a time or two with her, seeing all the old drinking buddies and the high school sweethearts and all that. So I was right back out, off and running.
Yep.
So I raised my son and drank for 10 years, pretty strong. Had a failed marriage in that, married a guy that was an alcoholic, and we just, fought like cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Dislocated jaws and broken noses and
Oh my gosh.
the whole 9 yards.
Jeez.
So I probably was 31, I got my first DUI. Wasn't no big deal.
Mhm.
I mean, I heard in treatment back then, we did like outpatient treatment where you had to go 3 nights a week, and it was a big pain in the butt. The only thing good about it was the bar around the corner that everybody went to when it was over.
Mhm.
And they talked about how someone quit drinking because they had a hangover. I'm like,
That's more reason to drink, right?
yeah, why would a headache make you stop drinking?
Right.
You know, just it was crazy stuff back then.
Mhm.
But anyway, DUI, jail didn't deter me. I think I did Friday night to Sunday night in jail, like a weekend in jail. Did some road crew, did a class that, like I said, all I did was meet people that we all left there and went to the video saloon and, you know, around the corner. That was in February. In December, just got all that out of the way, I got another DUI. And that time I lost my license for a year. I think I did 9 days. I worked for the school system. I lived in Bloomington, and I worked for the school system, so I did 9 days during spring break. No big deal.
Mhm.
Only regret I had during all of this was my tax returns went to treatment programs for the last couple of years. And then to get down to the nitty gritty, I mean, after the bad marriage and the fighting, then I was dating another guy, and it was a really bad situation. And he had firearms around, guns around, and they used them. And I thought I was just as tough as they were, and I tried to shoot him in a fight, and I got his gun and shot through the wall. I missed him, but you know,
Right.
It's just a Saturday night for us.
well,
At least you missed. I mean,
that's what the was.
Yeah.
I even had a counselor at that time that come in and said, "How'd you miss? How'd you miss? You should have got him. You should have got him. He deserved it." But anyway, I went to jail for that. I was drunk, went to jail. I don't know what all they had me on at that time. And back then, IU Health in Bedford was Bedford Medical Center, and they had a treatment center. And when I went to jail, of course, everyone in there was like, "Man, go to that treatment center, do 30 days there, and then you'll get out of all of it. They'll count that." You know, so that's why I went to treatment. And just that night, when I got in there, I was just like, I'm tired of this. I'm just tired of going to jail. I'm tired of all of it. I'm tired of the fighting. And I just made a decision that night, I always say it was like God touched me, and I decided that night I'm done.
Right.
Yep, I'm done. I did my 28 days in treatment. Never, for years, never quite could take that big step of faith to say that night I knew I was done. I felt it, but I never really said anything because it's like if you say it, you jinx it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
So, and then I did the next thing you're not supposed to do. A guy that had went through treatment, had 2 years sober, we started dating. I went to treatment in April, got out in May, we started dating the 1st of June, we got married the 1st of August. And I do not recommend it. They didn't recommend it for us, but we've been married almost 32 years, so it worked for us.
Oh my gosh.
Like I said, I can't recommend it for everybody because not everybody, we got married combined at our family immediately. I had an 11-year-old son, he had a 14-year-old daughter. We got married, we all moved in together, and then happily ever after.
Right.
Doesn't normally happen that way.
Right.
Doesn't normally happen that way. We both fought depression. Neither one of us has even come close to using again. He can pretty much tell you the same thing once he quit, got through all that. He was a lot worse off than I was. He had DTs and hallucinations and was in ICU for a week. And I mean,
Wow.
once he got through all that, he said he didn't want to do it all again.
Yeah.
But, and like you said, you can't relate to alcoholism. It is all the same in the fact that it's the addiction and it controls you.
Right.
I can't relate to you girls and meth and heroin because
Right.
to me that is so much harder to beat. It's just more serious to me.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, alcohol's out there.
Yes.
It's right there.
You can get it.
When you go to down the grocery store aisle, when you go to a restaurant, I mean it's
Right there. Yeah.
So, you know, but I just can't relate to
What we did.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, and as you know, I have family members that are heroin addicts, and I went through that and watched them get clean and watched a couple of them relapse, and I just can't fathom what they go through to get out of that. I'm on the fence about Suboxone and stuff like that.
Me too.
On the
Me
fence.
too.
I don't like Suboxone. I think it's just legal heroin.
Personally, I agree the same.
And it keeps you on it so that Big Pharma gets your money and you are still an addict in their pocket.
Well, and I've seen people do this, react the same way on Suboxone as they do with heroin, the whole nodding out, you know, falling
they
asleep
shoot
at
it
work.
They don't care that because it gets wet, it gunks up. That does that in your veins, and these people don't care. And then they get clots and infections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't like Suboxone whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of from that. I'm, like I said, you know, I'm kind of old school on it. If you're going to quit drinking, quit bending your damn elbow.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
the first step.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pick it up.
Yeah.
And you don't quit drinking whiskey and start drinking beer. And to me, that's going from heroin to Suboxone.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it gets you sober for a month or two and then you kind of move on, maybe.
Right.
I don't.
Prolonged use of it is my biggest issue because then you just become reliant on that.
Yeah.
Like what you said, you're just replacing it with something else.
Exactly.
And the same way, you know, back in my day, you went to AA. My husband went to AA every day for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first got sober, we went quite a bit and kind of wore off because, and there's people that, when I was 30 and started all this when I was 33, there was old men in there, or what I thought was old, 50, 60 years old, that had been going all their life to stay sober.
Yeah.
And that's their lifestyle, and that's good if that's what it takes for them.
Right.
I didn't do that.
Me neither.
I went long enough to learn how to live and adjust to things and moved on. You know, I just, and they said, well, you can't quit going and you can't say you don't need it because as soon as you do that, you're going to relapse. Maybe with some people.
Yeah.
By the grace of God, I made it through.
Yeah.
You know, my husband made it through. We raised our kids. They're not alcoholics. Well, as far as I know. I mean, they both manage drinking.
Right.
You know, our daughter will go out once in a while and have a drink. My son probably drinks beer every day. But he goes to work every day. He don't have any issues.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen what we went through. My son was 9 when I did the 9 days in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom brought him and visiting to see me. And he squalled and he bawled and he didn't want to come. And she dragged him in there and I'm behind that glass and I'm squalling and bawling and heart-wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
Heart-wrenching.
I can only imagine.
But
Yeah.
I needed him to see that. I needed him to see that. When I went through treatment, he was right in the middle of it. He went to AA meetings. You know, he was educated on it because I think that's the first thing you got to do. You know, and you girls, tell your kids, tell them the truth.
Yes.
I'm all about tell the truth about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Show them the dirty, ugly side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, they can't think just, New Year's Eve, we're going to the BFW or wherever they go and it's a big party and, you know, that isn't the way it is for most people.
Right.
Very few people that drink just go out and drink and come lead a normal life.
Yeah.
Most of them, it causes problems.
Right.
And the same way with the drugs. I'm sure that, you know, the first time, that's what I tell my grandkids, don't do it the first time. You don't have to worry about it.
Plain and simple. I think that all the time. like, one, don't lie to your kids about it.
Oh yeah.
My parents covered up everything they did, and I found it out when I was like 16, and it messed my world up. Like, I never, and that's what opened my curiosity, was like, oh, if my mom does it, I can do it. If my dad does it, I can do it. And then I took full advantage of that, and I still, to this day, although I know it was me doing the drugs, I still blame them because they lied to me. And to me, it was like they made me find this out on my own.
Well, there was lies in my family too. Not so much that, but you know, I grew up youngest of 4, and come to find out, my sister didn't belong to my dad, which we grew up thinking she did, and I was 16 when I found that out, or 20, something, I don't know. But it throws you for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
The people that you trust most have lied to you all your life.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you trust now?
Who do you think that you hurt the most during your alcoholism?
I would say my son, but he'll say no. He was 11 when I got clean, and he's like, yeah, it wasn't a big deal, Mom. So I would say my mom.
Mm-hmm.
My mom.
Yeah.
Because she was the biggest, she's not with us anymore, but she was the biggest enabler in the world. But she had years of practice living with my dad, was an alcoholic, and then here I come, and yeah, she was the biggest enabler, but she probably loved me more than anyone in the world.
Yeah.
And it hurt her more than, I'd say, my mom.
Yeah, my grandma was my biggest enabler, and you know, she dealt with that whenever she was married to my grandpa. He was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not with us anymore, but he was an alcoholic, and my mom, she tells me stories of them always fighting. My grandma would be waiting on him at the steps to just like pounce at him basically as soon as he got home from the Legion. And I really think that's why my grandma was like, oh no, it's no big deal, Alex. I'll help you out. And my mom was constantly telling her, no, Mom, you need to not.
Yeah.
And I just think it's harder for them to actually see somebody else other than who they were married to going through it. And they just don't want to disappoint you whenever, in fact, you're the one disappointing them.
And it's the parent or the grandparent that wants to fix that child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with my niece, hardest thing in the world I ever did when she was using and homeless was to say, sorry you have to sleep at the shelter house tonight.
Yep. I can't help you. You gotta help yourself.
Yeah, that's hard. I would rather be the user going through it than the parent or the loved one watching it
Oh, yeah.
and have to just shut the door on her.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a year of grieving. It was like I grieved her death.
Yeah.
And she was alive, but yeah, it took her away from me, and I grieved for her. And I love her to death, and she loves me, and we respect each other now. But we don't see each other a whole lot because we had 2 different lives.
Right.
But it was hard because she was with me all the time when she was a teenager. Yeah, and she stayed with me a lot, and so I've been on both sides of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather be at least when you're using, you don't know it.
Yeah.
You don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize the pain everyone's in or that you're in because you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a party at that point in time.
It's fun until it ain't fun no more.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, then you sit back and you do it. Okay.
Yeah, my breaking point was whenever my mom was like, you can't come back here, but I'll take you to Becky's place. And I'm like, I really didn't want to go there, you know? Like, not just for the fact that it was Becky's place. I'm not putting that down because they do help a lot of people. But I didn't ever see myself having to go to that place. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And just seeing my mom in that moment be like, I give up, I surrender, like, you just can't be around us. And I'm like, that breaks your heart more than you can ever imagine, you know? And then eventually, once I did start getting clean, my mom would go with me to my IOP and aftercare classes because she would get a better knowledge of everything.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that her being able to be a witness during me going through addiction was a blessing. I'll use that lightly because now she has friends messaging her, asking her how they should cope with what they're going through with their kids. So it basically gave her this wealth of knowledge to help others.
Yeah,
Without
no one
her
wants
even
to
knowing.
hear when you say, don't answer the phone. don't answer the door.
Mhm.
Don't give them $2. Don't give them $10.
Don't do
Yeah.
anything.
Don't do any of that. Well, I can't just have them homeless out on the street. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can.
That sounds like my grandma. That's
Yeah.
exactly how she was.
Yeah, you can.
Gotta keep your foot put down, because if they sense I was a manipulator.
Oh, yeah.
If I sense someone's weakness, then I could feed off of that, and then I could get more money, or I could get pills gave to me. You know, I just had to play my cards right.
Right.
And all but if people were standing strong on it, like telling me, they're sitting there in the same room with me, making a point to be like, I'm broke, then I was like, okay, well, obviously you're a waste of my time. I'll move on to the next person in the living room.
Yeah, you manipulate and you lie. And it takes a long time to stop those behaviors.
Yes.
I mean, even when you get clean, you still lie.
Yeah, it's a
Because-
hard habit to break.
Because you've been doing it. So it's so hard to be honest
Mhm.
on little things.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, little things.
Yeah.
You know, well, yeah, I did this once. When you
Mhm.
know.
That you did it probably more than
And-
that.
Yeah.
And to get to the point where you can say, I'm glad I got arrested.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad I went through all that.
Yep.
I wouldn't be where I'm at today had I not went through all that. I wouldn't have the compassionate heart that I have, that sometimes I just want to kick myself in the butt. My kids would say, like, how can you be so gullible? And I'm like, I'm not gullible. I just, my heart hurts for them.
Because you've been in that situation.
Yep.
You
And
know
I
what you're going
believe people when I shouldn't sometimes, not necessarily addicts, because I don't believe much that anyone
Yeah.
because you
through.
can't.
Smart on that.
Yeah.
for sure.
But I mean, like, I hired a guy to do some work for us at home, and I just give him chance after chance, and my kids were like, quit, don't give him any more money,
just
he's
stop.
ripping you off, you know, but it's like, well, what if, and they're
Yeah.
like, no, stop.
Yeah.
I have a really compassionate heart, and it's took me years to learn that and to give into it. Just, hey, that's just the way I am.
Yeah.
That's the way I am.
Yeah, I was really, when I first got clean, I was a really hateful person, just because I was used to being a hateful person on drugs, and it took me years to change that one aspect about me. It took a lot of self-reflection, and a lot of time I had to sit back and realize that not everybody I was mad at was out to get me as much as they were on drugs or looking out for me or whatever it was, you know? So,
Yeah, like the cop was just sitting there waiting on me. No, he wasn't. He had better things to do than mess with you.
yes.
You were the last person he wanted to see that.
Right. He wanted to get his night through and over with, and
Right.
you ruined his night.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I know that you said that like you started drinking at the age of 15. Was there any point in time where you did any other type of thing, like smoked weed or pills or anything like
I
that?
didn't do pills hardly. I mean, back then you did white crosses or little pink hearts. That's what they called them, and it was speed. I think back then you could get it at 7-Eleven, and it's what the truckers would take.
Yeah.
You know, so some of us passed some of them around. Didn't faze me a bit. You know, I probably was always hyperactive.
Mm-hmm.
ADHD, something, and depression, you know, all causes all this. And I could take that and go to sleep. So,
That's how I was.
but I never did much with the coke one time, I think, and it probably wasn't even real. I don't know.
That's how I feel about 80% of what I did. Probably wasn't even real. It's just wasting my money.
Yeah, I was a beer drinker. Didn't even care for mixed drinks, nothing. It was beer. I was just a beer drinker. I could drink the biggest man under the table.
Right.
And thought that was cool at 16. Learned later, that's one of your first red flags.
Yep.
When you're young and you can outdrink everybody else, that's your first red flag.
Right. Did you ever have any like health-wise side effects from your alcohol?
No.
No, it was just
Didn't it? I mean, I could go a week and not drink all week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just drink on the weekends. Then it got to where I drank every day. But if I didn't, I went to every ball game, every event with my son, and never drank during those times.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't just, my husband had to have, he drank straight vodka and he had to have it every hour. I mean, every hour he drank a gallon a day. Or he'd start shaking. I wasn't like that. I didn't really go into withdrawals when I went to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a hangover's a withdrawal.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would have hangovers. But it was just, health-wise, I don't think it affected anything.
Right.
My liver was fine. You know.
Yeah. I escaped as well with like no problems. A lot of people, their teeth fall out and all that, and I think I look all right for 25 years old, so
Yeah.
I'm glad about that. Same with you.
Yeah.
You're obviously, you have all your teeth, and that's what
Yeah, I
matters.
know. Well, that was my biggest thing too. Like whenever I was growing up, I was so big on like my teeth. You know what I mean? Like I was so proud of them. I had braces; they were so white. And then I smoked meth, and I was like seeing everybody else around me start losing their teeth, and I'm like,
Oh god.
hold up, I don't want to go
That's
through
not
that.
gonna be me.
I didn't want to lose my teeth,
Mm-hmm.
and that was always my biggest fear.
Yeah, mine too. Heroin eats your teeth from like the inside,
Yeah.
and I don't have cavities.
So were you IV?
No, I was not a needle user. I'm terrified of needles. I snorted constantly. I snorted pretty much everything you could imagine but meth. Like, if it could go up your nose, I tried it a time or two.
Yeah. I never shot up either with the meth. It was always either I snorted up my nose or I did what they called like a hot rail, or I'd smoke it.
Yeah.
But I was too afraid of needles.
Still to
no
this
way.
Having both of my kids was probably the most painful experience in my life. Not because of like having the C-sections. It was the part where they had to put the IVs in my hands. Like I also pass out when I see blood. Doesn't matter if it's mine or
Me
someone
too.
else's. I have to sit down. I have to put my head back.
I know it.
I cannot. So that needles were not for me. Plus, I feel like it's harder to get over needles.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed a lot of people. I'm not totally against rehab, but I'm also not a rehab supporter. But I've noticed more people who go to rehab were needle users, and I have never been to rehab. I've never been to a meeting, and I honestly think it's because I did not use needles. Had I crossed that line, my addiction probably would have became 100 times worse. But I didn't because I'm terrified of needles, and I've seen too many people shoot up and blow veins. And if you're not a doctor, don't do it. Like that's just how I feel about it. You dropped out of high school, put that needle down. Like, don't do that. It freaks me out.
What do you think kept drawing you back? Before, obviously, you got clean, like you told us what caused you to get clean. What do you think caused you to, like, keep going back to drinking before you did get clean?
Lifestyle and friends.
I feel that.
Lifestyle and friends.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know what else to do besides go to the bars.
Yeah.
Everyone I run around with drank. So even if I quit for a week or two, everyone else is drinking around me until finally it's like, all right, give me one.
Yeah.
I mean, lifestyle and friends. I think to get clean, those things totally have to change.
Everybody
Yeah,
has
I
to.
moved from Bloomington to Bedford, cut out everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Still
Yeah.
don't see those old friends. I work in Bloomington now, and sometimes I like see somebody's name on the list coming in. I work at Pets Live.
Nice.
And I'm like, I don't want to see them. I
Yeah.
don't want to talk to them. Even after 32 years, it's
Yeah.
like,
It makes you too nervous that you can just get right back into it.
Yeah.
You know, or at least that's in my case.
That's how I am.
I don't think I ever would now.
Yeah.
I'm 65 years old and
Right.
I have absolutely no desire to drink. Haven't had a desire for 20 years
Yeah.
and can't imagine even doing it now.
Yeah.
But it's embarrassing to see those people, you
Yeah.
know, because if you knew me 35 years ago, you don't know me today.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't know me today.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's how I see
That
it.
is
with my
exactly how I
addiction,
feel. 100%.
too. Mhm.
Thank you for listening or watching to today's episode. We wanted to give a special shout out to the Mitchell Community Public Library for allowing us to record in their meeting room. I hope this is the start of a great relationship with the library because I love to read and I love this room. So if you're still listening to this part, stay tuned for the next episode because it's only going to get better from here.
See ya.